Welcome to our channel where reality and nightmare blur and shadows whisper secrets. I'm Sam, your guide into the darkest corners of the human experience. Tonight we explore ghostly apparitions haunting film editing suites. These places once thrived with creativity, but now tell tales of spectral editors and cursed reels. Turn off the lights, turn up the volume, and prepare to be spooked. Your descent into darkness begins now. Our first tale takes us back to the golden age of Hollywood, a time of glamour, mystique, and endless possibilities. Picture this: a young, ambitious film editor named Arthur, burning the midnight oil, driven by dreams of making it big in the industry. He's working on a prestigious film noir, a dark and gritty thriller that promises to be a masterpiece. Night after night, Arthur finds himself alone in the editing room, the only sound the whirring of the Moviola film editing machine, a constant companion in his solitary endeavor. He loses himself in the world he is creating, frame by frame, each cut bringing the story to life. One late night, as Arthur meticulously reviews a tense scene, he feels a cold draft snake around his neck, sending shivers down his spine. He dismisses it as a trick of the old building, but the feeling persists, gnawing at the edges of his concentration. He can sense a presence, an unseen observer lurking in the darkness, watching his every move. He turns slowly, his heart pounding, and there, in the flickering light of the editing screen, he sees him, a figure that shouldn't be there, a tall, gaunt figure, draped in shadows, his face obscured by a wide-brimmed hat, standing ominously in the corner. The figure stands motionless, its eyes fixed on Arthur, a cold, malevolent stare that pierces through the darkness. Terror grips Arthur's heart, a scream stuck in his throat, unable to escape. He wants to run, but his body is frozen in fear, paralyzed by the sheer terror of the moment. The air grows thick with a palpable dread, an oppressive weight that seems to crush his very soul. Then, as quickly as it appeared, the figure vanishes, leaving Arthur trembling, his mind reeling from the encounter. He's alone again, but the encounter leaves an indelible mark on his psyche, a haunting memory that refuses to fade. The following nights are a torment for Arthur, each one filled with restless hours and haunting visions. He can't shake the feeling of being watched, a constant paranoia that gnaws at his sanity. The once familiar editing room now feels oppressive, a place of dread rather than creativity. One night Arthur notices something strange, something that sends chills down his spine. The film he's editing is subtly different. The change is almost imperceptible, but undeniably there. Scenes are rearranged, cuts are altered, and a new scene appears, one that Arthur never edited. It shows a close-up of the film's protagonist, his face contorted in fear, eyes wide with terror. And then, reflected in the whites of his eyes, Arthur sees him again, the Phantom Editor. The Phantom Editor, his face still hidden in the shadows, a silent observer of Arthur's torment. Arthur flees the editing room, never to return, his dreams of Hollywood glory shattered. The film is eventually finished by another editor, but rumors persist of a ghostly presence, a phantom that haunts the editing room. Arthur's story serves as a chilling reminder that some places are best left undisturbed, their secrets buried in the shadows. Our next tale takes us to a modern film studio, a place where creativity and technology merge to create cinematic magic. Located on the outskirts of Los Angeles, this studio is known for its state-of-the-art facilities and bustling activity. Among the labyrinthine corridors lies Suite 13, a place avoided by those who know its dark history, a history that has left an indelible mark on the studio. Suite 13 was once a hive of activity, filled with the sounds of editing and the hum of creativity. But a tragic accident changed everything. A young, talented sound editor named Sarah was working late on a big-budget action film, determined to meet a tight deadline. Suddenly, a fire erupted, engulfing the suite in flames. The blaze spread quickly, fueled by the flammable materials used in the editing process. Sarah, trapped inside, never stood a chance. Her screams for help were drowned out by the roaring flames. The fire department arrived quickly, their sirens piercing the night, but it was too late to save her. Suite 13 was gutted, and Sarah perished in the blaze, leaving behind a charred shell of what once was. In the aftermath, the studio rebuilt Suite 13, hoping to erase the memory of the tragedy, but strange occurrences began to plague the suite. Editors reported feeling uneasy, hearing strange whispers, and seeing fleeting glimpses of a shadowy figure resembling Sarah. The air seemed to grow colder whenever her presence was felt. One editor, John, scoffed at the rumors, dismissing them as superstitious nonsense, a product of overactive imaginations. But even John couldn't deny the strange events that unfolded during his time in Suite 13. The inexplicable occurrences began to wear on his skepticism. One evening, as John worked late, he experienced the full force of Sarah's ghostly presence. The atmosphere grew heavy and an unsettling silence filled the room. He noticed a strange distortion in the audio, a low, guttural growl that grew louder and more menacing with each passing second. The lights in the suite began to flicker, casting eerie shadows on the walls that seemed to dance with a life of their own. The growl intensified, morphing into a blood-curdling scream that echoed through the suite, sending shivers down John's spine. John spun around in his chair, and there, standing in the doorway, he saw her. Sarah's ghostly figure was unmistakable. It was Sarah, her form flickering like a candle in the wind, a spectral vision of her former self. Her clothes were burned and tattered, her skin charred and blackened, a haunting reminder of the fire that took her life. But it was her eyes that terrified John the most. They were wide with terror, her gaze fixed on him with an intensity that sent chills down his spine. They seemed to bore into his soul, conveying a silent plea for help that he could not answer. John stumbled back, knocking over a cup of coffee in his haste to escape the terrifying apparition. The scream reached a deafening crescendo, filling the room with an unbearable noise, and then just as suddenly as it began, it stopped. The lights flickered back to life, the strange noises ceased, and Sarah's apparition vanished, leaving John in stunned silence. John never returned to Suite 13. The experience had shaken him to his core, and he couldn't bear to face the haunted suite again. The studio eventually sealed off the suite, but the stories persisted, whispered among the staff, and passed down through the years. Some say Sarah's spirit still haunts the halls of Suite 13, her presence felt by those who dare to venture near. Forever trapped in the moment of her death, unable to find peace. A chilling reminder of the tragedy that unfolded within those walls, a story that continues to haunt the studio. The haunted suite remains a place of fear and mystery, a testament to the lingering presence of the past. A place where the line between the living and the dead is blurred, and the echoes of the past refuse to fade away. Our final tale takes us back to the early days of cinema, a time of flickering images and silent screams. It was an era when the magic of moving pictures was still new, and the boundaries of storytelling were being pushed in ways that were both innovative and at times unsettling. It centers around a single reel of film, a seemingly innocuous collection of celluloid frames, but one that holds a dark and sinister secret. This reel, unlike any other, was said to be cursed, bringing misfortune to anyone who dared to watch it. The reel was discovered in the archives of a small independent film studio, its origins shrouded in mystery. The studio itself was a relic of a bygone era, filled with forgotten films and lost dreams. The label on the canister was faded, but the words "The Harbinger" could just be made out. It was a name that seemed to whisper of doom and foreboding. No one at the studio had ever heard of the film, and there were no records of it ever being produced or released. It was as if the film had materialized out of thin air, a ghostly remnant of a forgotten past. Curiosity got the better of the studio archivist, a young woman named Emily, who decided to take the reel home to view it. She was a dedicated archivist, always eager to uncover hidden gems and lost pieces of cinematic history. She had a projector set up in her living room, and as she threaded the film, she felt a strange sense of unease. The film seemed to resist her touch, as if it had a will of its own. She dismissed it as nerves, excited to uncover the secrets of the lost film. The anticipation was palpable, and she couldn't wait to see what lay hidden within the frames. As the projector flickered to life, Emily was immediately struck by the film's unsettling nature. The images on the screen seemed to pulse with a life of their own, drawing her in. It was a silent film, but the imagery was deeply disturbing. The lack of sound only heightened the sense of dread, making each scene more haunting. The film stock was grainy and scratched, giving the images a nightmarish quality. It was as if the film itself had been through some kind of ordeal, mirroring the horrors it depicted. The scenes were disjointed, fragmented, like pieces of a nightmare stitched together. Each cut was jarring, each transition more unsettling than the last. There were glimpses of shadowy figures lurking in the background. They seemed to move with a malevolent purpose, their presence a constant creeping threat. Quick cuts to bizarre, unsettling imagery. A spider spinning a web, a clock with its hands spinning backwards, a close-up of a human eye wide with terror. These images were like flashes of a fevered dream, each one more disturbing than the last. And throughout it all, there was a pervasive sense of dread. It was as if the film was a conduit for some dark force, channeling its malevolence into the room. As Emily watched, she felt a growing sense of unease. The film seemed to be reaching out to her, its dark tendrils wrapping around her mind. The air in the room seemed to grow heavy, harder to breathe. It was as if the very atmosphere was thickening, pressing down on her. She felt a cold spot form next to her, as if an unseen presence had joined her. The chill was bone deep, a cold that seemed to seep into her very soul. Then the film reel snapped, the projector whirring to a halt, plunging the room into darkness. The sudden silence was deafening, the darkness absolute. Emily cursed under her breath, fumbling for the light switch. Her hands were shaking, her breath coming in short, panicked gasps. As light flooded the room, Emily gasped in horror at what she saw. The sight before her was something out of a nightmare. Standing in the doorway, its form flickering in and out of existence, was a shadowy figure. It was as if the figure was caught between two worlds. Its presence a haunting reminder of the film's curse. Its eyes burned with an unholy light, piercing Emily's very soul. The gaze was relentless, filled with a malevolent intelligence that seemed to know her deepest fears. Thank you for joining me tonight on this journey into the heart of darkness. I hope these tales of ghostly apparitions in deserted film editing suites have sent shivers down your spine. If you enjoyed these stories, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel for more spine-chilling tales. And be sure to hit the bell icon so you'll be notified whenever a new story emerges from the shadows. Until next time, sleep tight, and remember, the darkness is always listening.